in a couple of countries, have a couple of beers, and discuss a stadium somewhere in the world and their experiences there. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And we are happy to be here with you tonight. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the Stadium Journey YouTube channel. Like this video, leave comments if you feel the desire. We like the interactive stuff, I won't lie. The official Stadium Journey review of today's venue can be found at stadiumjourney.com, or the link to today's review can be found in the comments below. So let's get started. Dave, what are you drinking today?
So I have a blast from the past, I think. So when I was in university, my favorite bar was Morty's Pub, and this is in the early '90s, and at that time, it was a wildly different world. So every place you go now seems to have like 20 beers on tap, 15 beers on tap, 30 beers on tap. Well, at Morty's at that time, there were 2 beers on tap. Always Molson Canadian, and then almost always Rickard's Red. Until Morty's changed one of their beers, which was earth-shattering. So I have today one of those. It's from Waterloo. It is Waterloo Dark by the Brick Brewery. They claim to be one of the first craft beer microbreweries ever. And it's a blast from the past, different than what I normally drink. So obviously it's a dark beer, a little heavier, but yeah, brings me back to the old university days.
Geez, back when I was in university, I don't think there were such a thing as craft beers, but I digress. Today I do have a nice craft beer from the great state of Vermont. And if you've been watching Obstructed Views for any length of time, you do know that I do enjoy a good blueberry ale. And so today, from the state of Vermont and Rutland Beer Works, I'm getting a little shine here in the can. I have their blueberry blonde ale, which is nice. Very aromatic, nice blueberry taste to it. So a nice beer. If you are visiting today's destination, you might be drinking a Fly Lager from the Fly Llama Brewing Company, because today, we're going down south. We're talking about MGM Park, home of the Biloxi Shuckers. Before we get started, let's take a look at the stadium vitals. Okay, so there's an old adage in real estate that says location, location, location. And when we're talking about MGM Park, yeah, I could say Fly Llama and Fly Lager, but I can't say MGM. MGM has got a fantastic location. It's located right in downtown Biloxi, right near the beach. Like, it's right across the street from the beach. It's right on Casino Row. They got all the casinos down, along the waterfront. MGM Park is nestled right off the highway. I mean, the highway runs behind the first base stands, and you can get off the highway and take like a U-turn, and you're in the ballpark. And the casino's there. In fact, the Beau Rivage Casino provides the backdrop to this place.
And of course, it's owned by MGM, which makes total sense, because can you imagine being at MGM Park and seeing like
exactly
the Hard Rock right there? Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense. No. One of the things, like you said, it's really nestled in there. Really small footprint for that park. And one of the things it's really different about it is almost all ballparks you go and you have that main gate that is behind home plate. And Biloxi's not like that at all. That's where you get all your shipping stuff, and you totally don't want to be back there. That the highway's right there. So your main gates are in center field and right field. And when you go there, you are greeted by the Golden Lion of MGM fame.
Yep.
And
unless you went when I went, because they were doing construction on that parking garage that sits out in right field. So that entrance was closed, or at least limited. So we came in from behind the ballpark, and we came in the right field gate.
Right. Big set of stairs there, which isn't overly fantastic, but interesting spot. You're absolutely right about the location. When we went, we actually stayed across the road. There's a Best Western, which is my go-to hotel, right across the road, literally cross the street. And it's not a big street. You just cross a little street and boom, you're right there at the ballpark. Beach Boulevard, which is kind of the one that goes along the coast.
Yep, the main drag.
It's a big cross. So if you do go to the Beau Rivage, that's a big street to cross, which we did. We actually ate at the buffet there, which is fantastic. And I think you coined the phrase for Biloxi. It's almost like it's like a mini Vegas, right? Not big and flashy, but let's face it, there's 44,000 people in Biloxi, and they have a nice little touristy thing. They've got a few casinos there. The beach is really nice if you head up the other way. If you head west, up Beach Boulevard, and really long sandy beaches. When I went, hot, really hot. And I think the ballpark is hurt by that. And there are a couple things they could have done better that they didn't do.
Yeah, there is no shade at this ballpark. And I think it opened in 2015. I think you went before I did, because I went in 2018, I believe. And what I remember about the place is hot. and there's no shade anywhere. What I do remember is they have a giant team store with great merchandise. We'll get into that in a few minutes, I'm sure. But I think we made 5 or 6 stops at the team store just to jump into the air conditioning for a few minutes.
Right. When I got there, it was early, and they kind of manipulated the game times a little bit. So, getaway day is always Sunday, of course, and Sunday games are almost always at 1. They have pushed back. So our game was at 4, but still really hot. Walking in, you could tell the locals, they were like up against the backdrop to get what little shade they could. So, that ballpark, more than I think anyone that I've ever been at, could use an overhang. Like there's really not much shade at all. And interior concourses. It's not something you think about, and probably in other places it would be like, this is fantastic. You can always see the game. All the concourses are on the exterior. There are really only like about 3 main concession spots, and there's no refuge. There's no refuge from the sun out there.
And I think your point that it is hurt attendance is absolutely valid. The ballpark seats 6,000, and when they have had big events, they have not even sold out the ballpark. They had the Brewers come down and play one time. They only drew like 5,200. They had the Southern League All-Star game one year. That didn't even draw 5,000. So I think the heat is a disincentive to people. So yeah, I think overhangs. Other ballparks in hot places have done overhangs with success. You look at maybe say Vegas.
Right.
And they do things like that to give you some shade and to give you some relief. And Biloxi just doesn't have any of that.
Well, this is one of those minor league teams too. The Shuckers, they're owned by a guy who owns a whole whack of other teams. So they're all independent, companies, but the majority owner for each of them is a guy by the name of Ken Young, and he basically controls the Norfolk Tides, the Albuquerque Isotopes, the Bowie Bay Sox, and the Frederick Keys, which are moving to that loosely affiliated college league. So there's a guy who knows, who has plenty of experience, and maybe they'll be able to do something. Of course, then the city has to get involved too, right? Because it's a city-owned ballpark, and what can the city do to help with that? When we went down to Columbia, that was a big part of what they were doing. How can we keep our fans comfortable? The MGM Park is not a flashy park. It's not a fancy park. Once you're in, it's pretty simple. Pretty basic, but it's nice. Outside of the temperature, It's comfortable. I would think
Absolutely.
it'd be a great place to go on a nice, late May evening, when you're not you know baking and cooking in the sun. Uh, I actually did the review of this one, and one of the things that Lloyd Brown told me, because he had done the one before that, he said they've probably got the best concessions anywhere, and he was bang on. The concessions at this place are amazing, and the only unfortunate part was, we had eaten at the buffet, so
Yeah.
there wasn't a ton of room, but all of your kind of basic stuff that you would of course expect. You've got your craft beers, you've got a ton of kind of southern like chicken options, a bunch of different like smothered chicken and fried chicken on a stick, garlic fries, chili fries, all that kind of stuff. Then you've got your kind of like your bayou options and stuff that you're not going to get in the Northeast. Shrimp rolls and oysters and jambalaya and all that kind of stuff. For me, the one thing that I got there that I absolutely loved, really, really, really old school, got a root beer float in a plastic, I guess it was plastic mason jar, which of course you can take with you.
I see. I can't comment on the concessions either. I mean, of course, I got my ice cream helmet while I was there, but we had eaten before the game. We went to a night game, and we had eaten at this barbecue place about 15 minutes away in Ocean Springs called The Shed, which was so incredible that we ended up the next day going back there. So
nice.
So that's when you get the seal of approval from the bakers, because we ended up going a second time on the next day. This was part of a really nice trip, and unfortunately, with the reorganization of the minor leagues, it's kind of taken away from some of that. But it was possible a couple of years ago where you could start a trip. You can go from New Orleans to Biloxi to Mobile to Pensacola. Boom, boom, boom. No drive more than an hour and a half, all right on the coastline. It was a fantastic trip, and matter of fact, that's what we did. We had done when we were down there.
And we had done something similar, except we kind of came the other way. We were coming from Florida. We had driven to Florida, and then after Florida, we drove over to Biloxi, spent a couple days in Biloxi, over to New Orleans, spent a few days there, and then up we went to the Mississippi Braves, which is, what's the big city
That's Jackson.
Right. Yeah, just outside of Jackson. That's right.
Yeah, it's in Pearl. The ballpark's in Pearl.
Birmingham, and we were driving all the way home. So we stopped Lexington, and then home. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, you've called me a baseball snob before, and I'm okay with that. This was my first AA experience. No, my second AA experience. I really enjoyed it, and we knocked off about 2/3 of the league in that trip, right? The Southern League, which is
same for us. Yeah.
What is it now?
Which is now AA South.
AA South.
Yeah.
They need some names.
Please, minor league baseball, get some names for your leagues.
I got to sit with the scout for the Blue Jays, so that was kind of fun. Nice. But yeah, he looked like he would have rather been in Toronto and a little bit cooler climate.
And of course, with a name like the Shuckers, I was going to make a jelly joke there, but I'm not going to. The merchandising opportunities that have gone along with the team are just outstanding. Like I mentioned earlier, they have a giant team store right behind home plate. Like you said, the concession stands are kind of pushed over to the side. Front and center in this ballpark is the merchandising. And they've got a variety of stuff, and it sells like hotcakes.
Yeah, and part of the whole revitalization of Biloxi as well, because they were, of course, not as in the forefront as New Orleans, really taking the brunt of Hurricane Katrina, but
Biloxi
was, yeah, there was a lot a lot of damage there. And one of the things that you can do is go to the Katrina Memorial. That's just up the road there, heading towards the rest of the casinos. But yeah, it's an interesting place. A little bit of New Orleans, a little bit of Vegas, kind of neatly wrapped in this really small city, like 44,000. That's it. You know, even like if you include all the other parts, it's not huge. So that was kind of nice. But you know, if you're a beach person, it's a great place to go to the beach, especially if you don't like the huge crowded beach. When we were there, it wasn't very crowded at all. You know, catch a ball game. We watched the Blue Angels from the balcony of the hotel. They happened to be doing an air show, I think down by the Hard Rock, which is further up from the Beau Rivage. And, you know, came out, walked across the street, enjoyed the ball game. You know, I guess the other thing is when I'm on that trip, you know, it's hot everywhere. You know, New Orleans is super hot. Mississippi in general is hot. Alabama's hot, like in the summer, and that's, you know, that's part of the game. You just gotta take the punches.
Make sure you hydrate with maybe a beer from the Fly Llama Brewing Company after the game. If you're not with your family, hit the casinos. They're air conditioned. Make a whole thing out of it. So MGM Park in Biloxi, Mississippi, another great ballpark to visit. Hope to see you there on the road soon. Cheers.
Cheers.